So I am probably still maybe in the UK, maybe at some point when this video comes out. I might be on my way over to Europe. I'm off to Bruges for the week for a conference, which is going to be quite fun. We'll be doing some live streams and a bit of updates from while I'm there. But during the meantime, we'll be doing some pre-recorded videos for you all. But one thing we are definitely expected to take place this Monday is the news of whether or not the magic number has finally been reached. Those 54 letters have been sent to the 1922 committee. And of course, that will kickstart an entire process, of course, of potentially removing Boris Johnson. Will he win that vote? Will he lose it? I think it could definitely come down to very much a nice knife edge, and it could go either way, to be honest, at that point. But one of the things we've been talking about is very much since the local elections, there has been a lot, and I mean a lot of anger directed at Johnson by the Tory grassroots. Because as we've talked about before, there is the Tory parliamentary party, that's all the MPs in Parliament. And then there is the non-parliamentary party, which is basically everyone else basically affiliated with the Conservative Party. And of course, what did Johnson do prior to 2019? He booted out of the party a lot of very moderate Conservatives out of the parliamentary party back into the non-parliamentary party, and essentially replaced them with, well, yes men is the best way to say it. But those people were a lot more, shall we say, right wing and more in line to vote with a more extreme side of the Tory party. But this grassroots has become increasingly angry, especially those who lost their seats at the local council election purely because of Boris Johnson. Remember, when we covered those local council elections, a lot of people were saying, I'm not Boris Johnson. Please do not punish us for Boris Johnson's actions. Well, we saw the result. They almost certainly did. And they are still not happy at all. And one of the things we've talked about before, the potentiality of there being a conference vote of no confidence in Johnson by these Tory grassroots. So what could happen this Monday? I'm not sure. It might have already happened. I don't know. But of course, like I say, I will do bits and pieces throughout the week as well. So let's go over this quickly. So this comes from The Guardian with the title of Boris Johnson prays his number hasn't come up as Tory grassroots anger grows. Much of the British people and their elected representatives may have wanted a break from politics during the Platinum Jubilee celebrations. The issue of the country's political leadership has cropped up as many street and garden party, with one saying, I wouldn't say that all the events I've been to, and it is a lot, the vast majority have tried politely to avoid it wherever they can, said one Tory MP in a southern constituency. But about half a dozen people have searched me out to talk about Boris, and have even told me that he has to go. These were Tory people. They said they trusted me to do my duty in the coming days. So a lot of Tory MPs have probably had that very same conversation with their own constituents this week. We'll have to see, because I think if the letters come in, it could be very well be going in on Monday with all that pressure putting on them on that weekend. But of course, if it doesn't happen this weekend, it almost will certainly happen at the Wakefield and Towton by-election, which could go very, very bad for Tories. But that's another story for another time. The same MP who had not said publicly that Johnson should be outed, although he has been critical of him, reported having received about 400 emails on the leadership question over the last few days, only 4 of which were actually at all supportive of the Prime Minister, saying it's pretty overwhelmingly obvious from people who normally vote Tory, he said, that giving an indication of his direction of thinking. The sense that the support has been ebbing steadily away from Johnson has been borne out by all accounts of Jubilee parties related by other Conservative MPs, with one saying, people have not been big on politics because it is all about the Queen, isn't it? remarked a former cabinet minister who didn't want to get the PM out of Downing Street as soon as possible. But those who did mention it on the on the circuit said, "Well done for saying what you said," and they were all of the view that he must go. It had also been widely noted among constituents that he added that Johnson had been booed by a full crowd of royal enthusiasts outside St Paul's Cathedral on Friday as he arrived with his wife Carrie, saying his whole pitch has been that he is popular and that he is a winner. This reaction showed that he is not very popular anymore. That kind of thing is going to happen again. Another Tory MP from a northern seat reported that the reaction from his constituents has been more mixed and less predictable, with almost as many defending Johnson as wanting him out, although he too had picked up enough discontent to make him write to Sir Graham Badley, the chair of the 1922 Committee of the Backbenchers, to demand a confidence vote. He had concluded that his effort to survive as an MP in the seat with a smallish majority would be better off served by opposing the Prime Minister on doorsteps than continuing to try and defend the completely indefensible. And of course, that is a northern MP. So I wouldn't be surprised if that MP was definitely from the Red Wall somewhere, as we've talked about the Red Wall all the time. So you know, or at least you should know, the problems that a lot of those, so we say, Red Wall Tories are facing. It is completely impossible that this weekend, as the country marks the Queen's 7 decades on the throne, could be that Boris Johnson's as last as Prime Minister. If that were to be the case, he would have served fewer than 3 years in Downing Street, even less time than his predecessor, Theresa May, whose short tenure he did so much to bring to a painful end as their disagreements over the Brexit rage lasted 3 years and 11 days. MPs return to Westminster on Monday, and the leadership issue will be on everyone's mind. The tension will be close to unbearable for Johnson and his supporters on one hand, and those who want him gone on another. The focus will be much on Brady as Johnson himself. For the past few days, Brady and his constituency, Alsham and Sale West, have been monitoring a number of letters and emails that have been coming in from Conservative MPs demanding a vote of confidence in the Prime Minister. Even before the break for the Jubilee, about 30 Tories had gone public and called for the PM to go, with well over a dozen more being highly critical. Some of Johnson's detractors say that they sense the magic number has all but been reached, and even before they actually left their constituencies 10 days ago. Once it does hit 54, Brady has to contact the Prime Minister at the earliest opportunity to let him know the bad news and arrange a secret ballot of the 359 Tory MPs. One senior Tory said, if we hit the number, then it happens as soon as it realistically can. Obviously, if the Russians invade East Anglia, then there would be some leeway. But unless there are unforeseen events, the vote would be within a day or two. It might even be that the number reached 54 sometime over the last few days, and that Brady, mindful of the need not to let a political crisis overshadow the Jubilee, has delayed saying so until the parties and concerts were all over. Brady, however, won't say. He only knows the figures, and none of his staff have access to letters and emails. The rules state that if there is a confidence vote, then Johnson needs to win a majority of at least 180 to stay as the Conservative leader and remain the Prime Minister. If he does win, the rules state that there cannot be another confidence vote for at least a year. But Johnson and every other Conservative MP knows it is not just about winning. Other factors also determine whether a leader survives to fight another election. It was also about the margin of victory and the number of rebels. When Theresa May was subject to a confidence vote in December of 2018, she won with just 200 MPs, expressing their confidence in her and having 117 saying the opposite. So almost as twice as many of her MPs and ministers backed her as did not. But without a Conservative majority in the Commons after the 2017 general election, she was terribly weakened at a time when she desperately needed the numerical strength to get her Brexit deal through Parliament, and within 6 months, she had resigned. Johnson's starting position looks far stronger. He has a working majority of at least 75 in the Commons, taking into account the non-voting Speaker and his deputies, as well as the non-sitting Sinn Féin MPs. But while he is likely to get a simple majority, the big question exercising many of his critics and his defenders this weekend is how many might turn against him once the contest has been called. And we have talked about that, because it's a secret ballot. You don't know who's going to vote which way. Some of him who might say, oh, yeah, we support Boris, once they get into that voting booth, might suddenly decide to, well, let's get rid of him. So this has to be taken into account. With one citing, this is key, said one Tory rebel. If somewhere between 75 and 100 were to vote against him, I think he would be in big trouble. He would carry on, but it would be far more difficult for him to govern at a time of economic difficulty and far more difficult to get legislation through. This is why some rebel Conservatives, including a number who have already put letters into Braidley, now believes it would be the best to delay a confidence vote until after two critical by-elections on the 23rd of June in Talbotton and Houghton, where the Tories are under threat in a nominally safe Conservative seat from the Liberal Democrats, and in Wakefield, where Labour is expected to seize back one of the traditional strongholds it lost to the Conservatives in 2019. If the Conservatives were to lose both seats in a wave of anger against Johnson over Partygate, then that feeling within the party at large could be all bets are off. That would be the moment in which to send a message which would really get through to our colleagues. Rather than being an election winner, our leader has become an election loser, said one Tory rebel. So, for those of us who want him out, it might well be best until we wait to the moment of maximum danger. That is probably around the 24th of June. So, overall, we don't know what could happen. Maybe they could wait. Maybe they could decide to hold off until those by-elections. I think that is more likely now, to be honest. But just as likely, they could want him gone as soon as possible. That may be very well be the case. Let's just get rid of him as soon as possible. But of course, we really, really do not know what could happen. It could all go completely different. Johnson may himself feel under so much pressure, he may just resign himself. That's also potentially possible. We do not know what could happen. But almost certainly, Monday is probably going to be very tense, and probably from there up until those by-elections, almost certainly going to be even more so, because it does not look good from what we have seen from the polls in those two places. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and a today's link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel that way. And of course, we'll see you all